All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're digging into something. Well, it's a really interesting cultural ritual and how it went from basically a whisper joke to a full-blown annual tradition.
Yeah, we're talking about Danksgiving.
Exactly, Thanksgiving. So our mission today is to trace that journey.
And it's a fascinating one. The name itself is pretty straightforward. It's a fusion of dank, which is just slang for really high-quality aromatic cannabis, and Thanksgiving.
Right.
But what makes it so interesting is that it's become more than just a pun. It's now this real cultural and even commercial milestone every November.
Okay, so let's get into that history.
Yeah.
Because our sources say this is a story with, dual origins. The tradition was actually there before the name even existed.
Precisely. The ritual itself was, it was already a locked-in American tradition by the mid-2000s, maybe even earlier, but it didn't have a name.
And you're talking about the famous pre-meal cousin walk.
The cousin walk, yes.
Yeah.
Quiet moment of rebellion, I guess.
The strategic retreat.
Totally. That necessary session behind the garage or, a quick walk around the block right before the big meal. It was all about stealth, about finding a space away from the older generation's eyes.
So it was a tradition born out of Prohibition-era etiquette, basically.
Completely. But even with this ritual being so established, the actual word Danksgiving, that doesn't show up until much later. Our sources point to around 2009 online.
So if everyone was already doing it, where did the name come from?
That's the really cool part. The theory is that the word itself was actually sparked across the Atlantic.
In Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam, yeah, at the High Times Cannabis Cup.
Okay, so tell me about this cup-to-holiday pipeline. That's a great phrase.
So you had all these U.S. cannabis enthusiasts, the sources just call them heads, and they'd fly to Amsterdam every November for the cup.
Right.
And the timing is key. The Cannabis Cup would wrap up just a few days before American Thanksgiving.
So they fly home, totally jet-lagged, probably with some nice hash in their bags.
Exactly. And they start joking with their friends, man, I need a Thanksgiving dinner to recover from this trip and, get ready for the family.
So it was an inside joke.
It was. A little link between their big trip and the holiday waiting for them at home. And this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, but the term just stayed in those small circles for years.
Until the internet gave it a megaphone.
And once that happened, things moved fast.
How fast are we talking?
Well, you start to see it bubbling up around 2006. Little mentions in slang forums. You could see it in early search trends. It was an idea just waiting for a platform.
And then it gets its official moment.
Mm-hmm. The first clean definition drops on Urban Dictionary in 2009.
And what did it say?
Super simple. A Thanksgiving where everyone gets stoned and eats. That's it. But that was a huge step, right? It went from a joke to a searchable, defined term.
And once it's defined, it can spread.
And it did. All in our early social media Reddit, the first wave of Instagram. But the real push came from reform groups.
Like Normal.
Yeah, exactly. Local NorML chapters started running blogs with infused recipes. Danksgiving became this really useful tag for them to gather all their holiday content.
So it stopped being just a joke and became like a practical category, a how-to guide for the holidays.
It did. It showed people how you could actually integrate the plant into a big family meal, safely.
Which connects directly to the commercial side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where Green Wednesday suddenly pops up.
This is where the money shows up and validates the whole thing. As soon as states like Colorado and California legalized, dispensaries noticed this massive sales spike.
On one specific day.
On the day before Thanksgiving, every single year.
And why then? Is it just people stocking up?
It's a mix of things. People are getting ready for a long weekend with family. It's preparation, but it's also preemptive stress relief.
For the 4-day ordeal of family togetherness.
You said it. And the dispensaries saw this wasn't a fluke. It was reliable year after year.
And anything reliable in commerce gets a name.
Of course. So the marketers jumped on it, and they crowned the day Green Wednesday. And the sources are clear. It is consistently the second biggest cannabis shopping day of the year.
Second only to 420.
Second only to 420.
Wow. So Thanksgiving is basically the cultural reason for this huge economic event. It gives the sales a story.
Absolutely. The cousin walk, the infused dinner, that's the why behind Green Wednesday. Without Thanksgiving, it's just a random Tuesday sale. With it, it's a holiday.
Okay, so with more money and more acceptance, the menu had to get more sophisticated than just a joint Outback.
Oh, way more. That shift really happened in the 2010s. The dinner wasn't about hiding it anymore. It was about precision.
So what did that look like? What kind of dishes are we talking about?
Well, you started seeing dedicated infused items on the table. Things like infused butters for the turkey, canna-cranberry sauce, and this is really important, low-dose pies.
How low dose?
Usually standardized around 5 milligrams per slice.
And why is that 5 milligram number so key?
Because that number changes everything. For most people, 5 milligram is a really manageable, almost sub-psychoactive dose. It means you can have a piece of pie with your grandma and not worry that she's going to have a bad time.
It makes it social. It's not about just getting stoned anymore.
Exactly. It's about social enhancement. It's intentional. And this is where the weed chefs really came into their own. They weren't just dumping weed into brownies.
No, they were treating it like a real culinary event.
Like a genuine fall harvest feast. And for them, it was a moment to, as one source put it, show love to the growers who made it all possible.
Which brings us to the deeper meaning, right? Beyond the puns and the sales figures, this idea of harvest and gratitude, that's pure Thanksgiving.
It is. When you strip all the slang away, that's the core of it. Harvest, gratitude, community, the themes are identical.
But for the cannabis community, that sense of gratitude has to be heavier,
Yeah.
more significant.
I think so, yeah. I mean, for the farmers and activists who kept this plant alive through decades of prohibition, I mean, real danger and illegality, this kind of public celebration is monumental.
It's a moment to finally thank the soil, the community.
And the legislative winds that brought it out of the shadows.
Yeah, that's a powerful symbol. The journey from the back of the garage to the dining room table.
That's the whole story right there. That's the modern takeaway. Having the plant on the table, even in a 5 milligram pie, it just symbolizes how far the culture has come. From a whispered, hidden thing to an open celebration.
It really becomes a ritual about connection.
And healing, in a way.
So, to wrap this up for you, this journey has been incredibly fast. It started with two separate things: the secret cousin walk here at home, and an inside joke from travelers coming back from Amsterdam.
Those two paths met online, got a name, and then got supercharged by the commercial reality of Green Wednesday.
And then it all matured into this sophisticated feast that's really about safety, gratitude, and community.
Yeah. What started as a stoner pun is now, I mean, it's a real, organized, yearly ritual. It's a perfect case study of how a grassroots culture can end up shaping holidays and driving market trends.
You know, the sources leave us with this one thought that I think really captures it all. That the best part of any meal isn't really the food itself.
It's who you pass the joint to.
Exactly. And that leaves a question for you, the listener, to think about. In any celebration, whether it's official or not, how much does that shared ritual, that act of connection, matter more than what's actually on the table? And maybe what other traditions in your own life started out as just a joke before they became, the real thing. Something to think about until our next deep dive.